During the Krangle event, a ton of people had a chance to experience new builds that they never played before, just given the constraints of that event. I had a few people that expressed the want to play more Poisonous Concoction after playing my build in Krangle League, and just given how good Poison Concoction is in leveling environments, it's consistently been one of the best league starters you can play. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my take on Poisonous Concoction. Prior to the recent nerf, Poisonous Concoction was solely about getting as many projectiles as possible for shotgunning. While it's still important to have a lot of projectiles, you still need to prioritize flash charges given how this skill functions. For those of you that haven't seen my video on how Poisonous Concoction works, the TLDR for that video is you need to be getting life flask recovery rate as high as possible on your life flask. This is the number you should be looking at. Poisonous Concoction gives you 11% of that number as flat chaos damage, so it's vitally important that you always have flash charges available. Not only to maximize damage, but also to make sure that you don't just die due to not having life flash charges. The main focus of this build is to do exactly that. Keep as many life flash charges as possible to get permanent uptime on your damage bonus, while also being very tanky. And that's why we also use 2 life flasks on top of playing Pathfinder. Poison Concoction is a very strong mapping build. In conjunction with Aznash's Gentle Touch and Plague Bearer, you'll be zooming through red maps. The only potential downside of this build is it's not super strong when it comes to killing bosses, but realistically that's most poison builds, especially early on in the league. Gem levels and awakened gems make this build significantly stronger when it comes to boss killing. But given the survivability of this build, as long as you understand the mechanics, you shouldn't have any issues with any non-Uber boss. In the description is a path of building that is structured to be easy to follow, but I thought I'd walk through some points of a few portions of the POB. First things first, I don't put resistance on gear. The reason behind this is because I don't want people trying to copy items one for one. If multiple people try to go after the exact same item, that item may not exist or it may be very expensive just because of scarcity. When gearing, work through a piece of gear at a time until your resistances are capped. You have access to a ton of rares in this build, so capping res should not be an issue. For bandits, we kill all. For pantheons, you want to take freeze immunity and shock reduction. For movement skills, there's a couple of different options. Dash, or what I would suggest at level 10, is swapping to Smoke Mine. Some people don't enjoy Smoke Mine, but as long as you use Smoke Mine with your detonate button on the movement key, it's basically still a one button press because it auto casts once you are holding down your movement key. So in my specific scenario, I use Smoke Mine on R, but then I have my detonate on my left click. I'm moving with left click, so then every time I press R, it just casts the Smoke Mine, and it's pretty easy and pretty simple, and it's significantly faster than Dash. The next option for movement skills will come either at Act 3 or in Act 6, depending on if you want to do the library quest or not, and that's Shield Charge and Flame Dash. Shield Charge and Flame Dash make this build significantly faster, so if your goal is to level as fast as possible, I would suggest doing the library quest to gain access to those 2 abilities. For the masteries, before we have access to full spell suppression, you want to be taking the chance to suppress spells as lucky. If you don't have a life roll on your chest piece, take the 15% increased life mastery. Lastly, let's hit on poison chants prior to having a curse on hit ring or Aznash's chant. You want to make sure that you're casting your curses on rares and map bosses. If you don't do this, you'll be missing out on 20% chance to poison due to the curse mastery you take. You could also opt to play for Herald of Agony or take more poison chance on the tree if you don't want to have to focus on cursing every single rare. For the EB swap, I'd wait to do this until you have at least 500 ES. Normally this is after you get Denture Bait and one other piece that has ES on it, but the rest should be pretty self-explanatory in the path of building. However, if you do run into any issues, I try my best to respond to any comments, so feel free to leave one. The path of building also walks through how to scale this build all the way up to 13 million DPS if you want to try to push the build even further. If you have any questions, feel free to check out the video entitled How Poisonous Concoction Works. That link will be in the description as well. And also a side note here, I'm making this video before we see the upgraded gems, so potentially there's a world where Poisonous Concoction could be even better than it is if the upgraded gem of Poison Concoction is strong. Currently, the new quality doesn't change that much. It just makes you have max wither a little bit easier, which is some pretty good quality of life and maybe will lead to damage ramping a little bit faster. depending on how losing increased area effect may affect the build. If there are any significant changes with the new gem system, I'll make sure to either make a new video for it or at least put something in the comments for it as well. I hope you all have a successful league start, and if poison builds aren't your thing, hit that subscribe button, and in the next couple of days, I'll be releasing a guide for one of the best boss killers in league start environments that I've played. Thanks for watching.